Here on County Chatter today, love your local water. Kalliope Chute is the hazardous materials environmental specialist at the Barnstable County's Cape Cod Cooperative Extension. She manages the program Water Quality and Hazardous Materials and also the Barnstable County Hazardous Materials Program. Lots of things about protecting our aquifer, protecting our first responders. There's a lot that you do with hazardous waste materials. Kalliope, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your program.
Well, it's really nice to be here. Thank you for asking me. So I've managed the program like you mentioned, and I've spent about almost the last 20 years doing that, working for the county in water quality and hazardous waste. And it's not just a job for me. It's really my passion, sort of exemplified in other aspects of my life. I'm an oyster farmer and a beekeeper, and really committed to clean water and clean air for all Cape Codders.
All right, that's fantastic. So let's get right into this. There's a lot of different things that your programs do that people can really take. Almost all of them are free too, so they can take advantage to keep our waters clean and to keep their households safe as well.
Right.
So can you explain the key services and programs offered by the Hazardous Materials Program to residents and how residents can utilize the programs to support healthy homes, protect their families, and the environment?
Yeah, so the key services and programs are really coming under one mission statement, and that's to protect our sole source aquifer, our one drinking water source, from chemical contamination. So the programs that I operate all work towards that goal, and that is to take out unnecessary hazardous or toxic chemicals out of people's homes. And that could be a myriad of different things. It could be flares, it could be mercury, it could be oil-based paints, pesticides, that kind of thing. And then my goal is to do that in a way that's like super easy and convenient for residents, so that there's not a lot of barriers to participation. That's really important to me. So all the programs, like you mentioned, they come out of folks' taxes, so there's no fee at point of disposal unless you're a small business. We do have a very vibrant small business waste program. So if you are using chemicals in your business and you want to dispose of them properly, there is a program for that as well.
All right. Can you kind of teach us about the specific steps that folks need to participate in these programs? So there's a myriad of them across the Cape. Every municipality has a drop-off hazardous household waste. Tell us a little bit about that program, because I think that's the one that most people are aware of, and how that operates and when it operates.
So I'll start from the end. We operate April through October every year for the last 30 plus years. So these programs are consistent, they're accessible, and they're in every community. Most years, for the last couple of years, we've been offering 24, and those are spread from Bourne to Provincetown. So every community has at least 2. And what happens is, people will notice what's in their homes that they no longer want in their homes, looking under the kitchen sink or in the shed or the garage or other outbuildings, that kind of thing. And they'll want to dispose of the items that are in there that are considered hazardous, like oil-based paints, as opposed to non-hazardous items like latex or water-based paints. And they can look on their town website. Municipalities often offer these, as do water districts. And so the information is either on the county website, loveyourlocalwater.org, or on the health department website or DPW department website, and you'll see all the dates and the times and the locations. And if you're a resident, for example, of the town of Barnstable, you can participate without a registration, no appointment, and there's no drop-off fee. So you just roll on down to the transfer station with your waste and drop it off. There's no limits and there's no fees, so it's pretty simple.
Really simple. I've been through it multiple times. It feels like I've, don't have anything. And then when the date rolls around, I'm like, okay, let's check the shed or the basement again. And of course, there's one more thing that we're finding. And that brings us to, you talk about first responders and these toxic chemicals. Why is it important to actually get these out of the house? If something happens into your home, are they exposed to these in some way?
So first responders really promote emergency preparedness, and participating in a household hazardous waste collection falls into that category of emergency preparedness. The EPA says that every household starts aggregating about 25 pounds of household hazardous waste per year. So that can really add up. And if you have a structure fire or there's a flood, absolutely the contents of the containers in your home can get into the flood water. They can burn really, really hot and nasty. So they can be, for like say, the police that are outside directing traffic or DPW that are opening up the water, the hydrants, they're not wearing air packs. They're breathing all whatever's burning in, or in floodwaters, people's skin is being exposed to it. And some of this waste can be very, very poisonous, very toxic. So it's really important to clean out your house every couple of years and make sure that you kind of are starting with a benchmark of none or little for household hazardous waste. So getting rid of those oil-based paints, the pool chemicals, the pesticides, all those things that you don't want to flood out or burn.
That's a really great point when you talk about all these different chemicals, and you started off the conversation about a sole source aquifer. Why is this important to get these out of the environment? We stand on the water that we drink. That is the favorite line of our town manager. Give our residents a sense of, yes, you want to, in case you have a fire or a flood, but that might be few and far between. But these chemicals can actually get into our water system.
Yeah, we're lucky on the Cape to live on this beautiful sandbar, but there's no barrier between what happens above ground and the storage of all of our drinking water. And all of that drinking water, becomes our lakes and ponds and the surface expressions of the drinking water, wetlands. So whatever ends up in the aquifer kind of can contaminate all different kinds of water bodies. And we want to have a clean environment here on the Cape. We want to have clean drinking water, and everyone has a responsibility to help protect that. So this drinking water, the sole source aquifer, while there are different lenses across the Cape, different drinking water sources for different towns, they are to some degree connected. And when there are tests done of drinking water wells or surface water bodies like ponds and lakes, we find contaminants like pesticides and pharmaceuticals in them. So we really want to make sure that folks do their best to keep our drinking water clean, not just to support themselves and their families and their pets who have lower tolerances for exposure to these chemicals, but also to keep our economy vibrant. Like, we want to have nice clean water for ourselves and for our visitors. And yeah, so it's all interconnected. We're all communities connected by water, and it's beautiful, but it's also fragile.
Right. And I guess there'll be some of those folks that say, well, I can just put this in my trash. But landfills and transfer stations, they're not equipped to dispose of these in the way that they should be. Tell us a little bit about why you're not putting this stuff in your trash.
Well, a lot of it is way too toxic to trash, first
Right.
of all. And I think the term dumpster fire comes to mind pretty quickly when you start thinking about that. Also, these wastes are often incompatible, so if you put them in a black plastic trash bag or something and throw them away, they can react with each other and literally become that dumpster fire. Also, the workers at transfer stations and landfills are not equipped to, to manage this hazardous waste, often not permitted to. And a lot of the solid waste on the Cape gets landfilled, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, and we really think about economic justice, where are landfills located, who's being affected by the waste that we put into that hole in the ground, and then what happens to the leachate. The wastewater that comes from the landfill is not treated as for chemicals. It's treated, for the most part, as wastewater. So it's a little bit granular, but the leachate, the wastewater water, can be quite toxic as well. And so, we want to protect the workers. We want to protect, our environment, not putting chemicals that are too toxic to trash into the ground. And it's just not the appropriate way to dispose of that waste. We have methods in place to treat hazardous waste appropriately and legally and environmentally friendly. And there's like a really wonderful hierarchy for treatment, and it's not throwing it in the trash. Yeah, and these programs are so convenient that it makes sense to use them when they pop up in your town.
All right.
You know, we try not to make them a mystery about when they happen. They're easy to find, that sort of thing.
Right. So you talk a lot about hazardous waste. You talk a lot about the aquifer. We've got a lot of new residents. What are your top five kind of reminders for people out there, or strategies to keep their homes as safe as possible and their surrounding communities?
I think starting with looking for less toxic alternatives to the chemicals that you might want to use. It's also cheaper, less expensive, often to use a safer alternative. Really being mindful of what you're purchasing, only buy what you really need. I understand that some of these products make household chores a lot easier, and so I'm not saying don't buy them, but buy only what you need. And then when you're ready to dispose of them, do it appropriately. That's, I'd say, the top three. The other thing would be to remind your friends and your family, your neighbors, about environmentally friendly practices that you come across, so that you're kind of spreading the word and being part of the solution. I think that's really important. Sometimes people keep what they're doing a little bit private, and nobody really knows what other people are doing with this, and letting people know how they can protect their children and their families, their pets, their environment, their first responders. It's kind of a word of mouth thing too, in that sense. So I think those are some really important ways that folks can have the responsibility, but also take the ownership and be empowered by their practices. The other thing is advocating for policies that support clean water, so town programs, county services that promote clean water. That's a great thing to do as well, and that's usually pretty easy, going to town meeting or letting your town council or select board know that you support clean air and clean water here on Cape Cod.
That's wonderful. How can people learn more? I'm sure you've got a whole bunch of different kind of communications out there. Let our residents know where they can find more information.
The easiest place is the county website. We have a new URL. It's capecod.gov. And if you Google hazardous waste, it's going to come up on that. There's a devoted URL for hazardous waste called loveyourlocalwater.org. I also have an 800 number. People call me all the time. It's kind of what's going to happen on the other end of this phone call? People call about everything, and that's 800-319-2783. So people can give me a call. But people chat on social media. They text me. They email me. I'm very available.
That's fantastic. Anything I didn't ask that you want our residents to know?
Well, I could talk for hours about this, as you know, Paula. Right. But there are programs in addition to the household hazardous waste, like sharps collection, mercury collection, flares collection, and it goes on and on. But folks can learn more about those programs at loveyourlocalwater.org.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kalliope.
It's my pleasure, Paula.